Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My Dark Knight is the Batbran, and welcome to my mock draft. Now, this is my mock draft for this coming NFL draft. A lot of quarterbacks could be selected in the first several picks. I don't think that's going to actually happen, and we'll see because there's this new test that's out there right now, and a lot of people are. I do think there's going to be some trades. Which, if we're lucky enough, I may send them around to try and get done as well. But we're going to jump in here, and if you all do enjoy this, let me know in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new, because I'm also going to go into some fantasy implications as well, obviously. But the first overall selection, this is very easy. It is Bryce Young. Bryce Young is going to be the pick, obviously. Then next we do have the Texans at 2. Now they could go and pick the quarterback. I strongly feel like CJ Stroud could be the pick here. There's a test that just came out that they did, and CJ Stroud didn't do the best. Now, do I think that's all malarkey? Sometimes they really do, like Will Levis. Maybe Houston could go any way, but I do strongly feel like Will Anderson will be the surprise pick at 2, throwing the Cardinals in disarray on who they would like to select. And honestly, I think that there's 2 different people, though, that could go. Where is Tyree Wilson? I think Tyree Wilson will be right after that, so we'll get 2 guys back-to-back, especially because the Texans can wait. The Texans have the 12th overall pick as well. They could get their quarterback and let the draft fall to them and get their quarterback that they would like. Or they could, if they see like a running quarterbacks and their quarterback's still there, they could jump up, and I think that could happen. But the 4th overall selection is the Colts. Let's first talk about Tyree Wilson. I do think that with those 2 now, it could be Will Anderson, but I think, honestly, Will Anderson has been mocked to the Cardinals a lot, but with Will Anderson getting selected in my mock by the Texans, they do need that. And the Texans do need a D-line. They desperately need D-line help, and that is the best guy available. So you could go him or Tyree, and you'd be really happy with whoever you get. And that leaves C.J. Stroud to drop to the Colts. Now, if their quarterback gets selected, they may try to jump the Cardinals to get their quarterback. If I really feel like they could try and jump to get that quarterback. And Stroud, honestly, to me, is the most. Him and Anthony Richardson are the 2 that have the biggest, highest ceilings, especially in fantasy. Anthony Richardson is a project, but in fantasy, he has the highest floor. And C.J. Stroud, you throw him on this offense, and what Jalen Hurts was able to do in Philadelphia with Shane Steichen, who is the head coach for the Colts now. He could do the same thing with C.J. Stroud as well. He has very similar type. C.J. Stroud just looks like, to me, I honestly feel like he should be the number 1 quarterback taken in the draft. Will he? Sadly, I don't think so. Here, I think what we will do here, the 5th pick, is the Seahawks. I do think that the Seahawks will have a little different selection here. I think the Raiders are going to move up from pick 7. They give them pick 7 a first rounder next year and the 38th pick for that. And let's just throw in a 4th rounder. Or let's give them the 5th and the 37th selection. Can I not do this? Anyway, you know what? Let's just say the no trades on this. I guess I have to buy PFF if I want to do this. Anyway, Seahawks at 5. Seahawks at 5, they could go trade here. This could be a spot where you do see a trade. But I think what could happen here is Jalen Carter is available. They do like getting those projects for their line and stuff like that. And I know he has issues, character issues, but Jalen Carter's best player available, and the Seahawks have stuff for them to like go all in for. Like, Geno Smith looks really good, and honestly, they have picks that they could load up that defensive line. They could attempt to trade up if they don't trade down to get more picks, but they could trade up to try and get one of the top edge rushers because they desperately need it. Lions they could have went Jalen Carter here, but with him gone, I think honestly they need a corner. Devin Witherspoon is the best cornerback available, and I think it's going to be a no-brainer that they select him here. He is the best cornerback in this class, along with Christian Gonzalez. I honestly feel like Devin Witherspoon just had a little bit more over Christian Gonzalez, and honestly, I could see him do very well in Detroit with Jeff Okudah. Now, here we are at the Vegas. This is a quarterback. It has to be a quarterback. But who do you go for here? Do you go for the project and Anthony Richardson, which Josh McDaniels, he did it once before with Tim Tebow. Does he do it again with Anthony Richardson? I don't think we do. I think they look at this test that is a new test for quarterbacks, and Will Levis performed the best on it. I know there is some rumors saying he's going 1 overall on Reddit and stuff like that. That's not happening, folks. If you really think that's happening, you're nuts. Bryce Young is a much better talent. Will Levis is going to be the pick. I think if any of them, he's going to flop. So he does not need to start immediately because Jimmy G can be the starter, and he needs to be the starter, and Jarrett Stidham being the backup. Honestly, Will Levis probably won't see the field for about a year or two, and honestly, that's the best place for him. He needs to sit, and I feel like that's the spot where he will go. Next, here's where the draft gets super interesting, because you have the Falcons on the board, and they do need a quarterback, but they'll probably wait one more year with Ritter. They could go wide receiver. They do have Drake London. But other than Drake London, who else is there? And Calvin Ridley's gone. They need to replace Calvin Ridley. I know they didn't have him last year, but you throw in a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba, that could definitely be a major change for your offense. But Cordell Patterson is gone. Tyler Algier is there. But Arthur Smith wants a running back that's very similar to a Derrick Henry. And you can't get any closer to Bijan Robinson. Now, for fantasy, if Bijan goes to the Falcons, that's actually pretty good. I honestly feel that's a pretty good spot for him, because if you watch the Falcons last year, they were down and they still ran the ball. They ran it the most. In some games, they had the most run attempts in the entire league. Bijan could be the pick here. If it's not Bijan, it could be Jackson Smith and Jigba, or it could just be the edge rusher Nolan Smith and Christian Gonzalez. But they look at the head of the draft board. The Eagles are coming up. The Bears are coming up. They could pick a running back if they don't pick a lineman, which honestly, the Bears need a quarterback or need a tight end or a tackle before running back. So they're sitting at the perfect spot. So I am going to select Bijan Robinson. He is going to be possibly the 101 when it comes to rookie drafts and Dynasty. He's also going to be one of the top 10 running backs this year, especially if he goes to Atlanta. I do think that Atlanta, that'd be a perfect spot. And the other reason why I don't think the Eagles will select him, the Eagles could move up, but they have a deal in place to possibly go and get Derrick Henry. If they do indeed get Derrick Henry, we're like already the Eagles, who are a powerhouse, will just get even better. But the next, so far, we'll do a recap after each 10 picks, but my Chicago Bears are on the clock. This is an easy selection. Peter Skoronski, he's the best lineman in the entire draft. They need a tackle. I do think that tackle makes sense there, and I would love to see Peter Skoronski from Northwestern staying in his hometown, staying in the place where he went to college, and staying home, and he doesn't have to go far, and just playing for the hometown Bears to protect the blind side of Justin Fields. God, I couldn't think of Justin Fields. And really there, now you have drafted 2 tackles in the last 2 picks early, and you have solidified your tackles for a good while now. That leaves us to the Eagles in the next pick. The Eagles just lost both they don't need a wide receiver. I do not agree with this list at all, especially when you're not wasting a number 1 pick on this. I do think that it could be Brian Branch. It could be, but they may look to get a lineman that has center viability, because Jason Kelsey, he's come back for 1 more year, but how much longer is he going to be there? I think Darnell Wright is going to be the pick. He has been jumping up draft boards of late, and I really do feel like Darnell Wright could be the guy to pick. Then we move on to the Tennessee Titans. This is a spot where Anthony Richardson is definitely slated to go. And honestly, I could see it. I could 100% see it here. But you picked a project at quarterback with Malik. And you have Tannehill. Do they go again and pick Richardson, who is also a project? They could do that. Or they could wait a year and see what happens and pick another receiver for a weapon for Tannehill to go with this guy. That could happen. But I feel like the way the draft is sitting in front of them, they cannot let Anthony Richardson go by. Imagine an offense with Derrick Henry and Anthony Richardson. That's a pretty good darn offense. Anthony Richardson is the selection. Now, in fantasy, he is my number 1 quarterback for fantasy because he has the highest upside. It's him and CJ Stroud. Just because they have running ability. Bryce Young really doesn't. What I would like to see is I would love to see Anthony Richardson just start immediately, but I don't think he will. He may see the field if Tannehill gets out, and honestly, if he gets drafted to the Titans, that's his best shot to actually start. But a recap, we had Bryce Young at the 1st overall pick, Will Anderson after that, Tyree Wilson, CJ Stroud to the Colts, Jalen Carter to the Seattle Seahawks, Devin Witherspoon to the Lions, Will Levis to the Raiders, Bijan Robinson, Bijan French-Mustard to the Falcons, Peter Skoronski to Northwestern, to the Bears, Darnell Wright to the Eagles, and at 11 we have Anthony Richardson. And this guy has been mocked here for a while by many different people. They did not go and pick their quarterback. Houston, I think, honestly would jump the gun to try and get their quarterback here. I honestly feel like this is the spot where they would get the quarterback. Honestly, I would not be amazed for them to make the jump, but since there is no trades, I do think the 12th pick, if the second pick they do pick for quarterback, Jackson Smith-Njigba makes the most sense, because C.J. Stroud, he could go in the second pick, and if he does, you get his favorite target in Jackson Smith-Njigba, and if he goes there and C.J. Stroud is there as well, I really do like that. I really like that. You're going to have a Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase situation in Houston, where he's going to have his favorite target, and he is going to target him a very good bit. I really do feel like that is a very decent selection there for the Texans to pair with their quarterback. Now, Green Bay. Green Bay just traded Aaron Rodgers. They just traded Aaron Rodgers. And what I would feel would be funnier than anything in the entire world is if they wasted a pick and used a pick on an offensive weapon for Green Bay, and that is Dalton Kincaid. I think Dalton Kincaid is one of the best tight ends in this draft. I think Michael Mayer is better than him, but just to the ability of him, I would not be amazed to see him get drafted this high, and higher than Mayer, because I think Mayer, honestly, if Mayer makes it later in the draft, there is a team that also needs a tight end that I would not be amazed to pick him up as well if the opportunity presents itself. Now, for Kincaid, fantasy-wise, what do I think of Kincaid? You don't draft rookie tight ends in redraft and in Dynasty. Would I draft him, period? Probably not. Rookie tight ends you don't, but it is an intriguing spot that he is gone, that he would go to Green Bay, especially with Jordan Love, that has these young pieces, and we really don't know what you're getting with Jordan Love. This could be a team that picks in the top 5 picks next year, and I would not be shocked. Moving on to the Patriots, who has a lot of controversy right now. This is a spot where Mac Jones is... There is just a thing that came out. Pat McAfee talked about it today, actually. The day that I'm recording this is Wednesday. And honestly, the rumor is they're going to do a package with Mac Jones and several first-round picks to move up to the second overall selection to pick their quarterback. If they do that, which honestly I feel like New England wanted, they didn't want Mac. I strongly feel like they wanted Justin Fields. They wanted Trey Lance. They wanted one of those projects, but they got beat out by the Niners and the Bears moving up to go and get their quarterbacks. And they ended up just getting Mac. If that happens, and they trade away Mac Jones, I don't think it will happen, but saying that it doesn't happen, and the trade doesn't happen, who do they select if they just stay put? They could take Christian Gonzalez, they could take Nolan. I think this is Paris Johnson Jr., I think that especially because they know that the Jets are right behind them, and the Jets would want a top tackle, and they'll just snipe that pick out from underneath them and also hit a need as well. It just makes a ton of sense. Paris Johnson is just a beast. He is an amazing left tackle, and whoever they get at quarterback will help them in the long run. The Jets here, they could go edge rusher. You could get your tackle with Broderick Jones as well. I think they just get the best available tackle, and we just see a small run on tackles here. Moving on to the Commanders. Listen, I know there's a quarterback, but they're going to give Sam Howell a shot. I honestly feel like next year they're going to give Sam Howell a shot. And here, I think, is where we see Christian Gonzalez finally come off the board. They need a cornerback desperately. Them and one other team needs a cornerback desperately. And we may see a small run of corners go here because the Vikings need one, the Steelers need one, which this is just obvious. They're picking Joey Porter Jr. That is just an obvious selection. Just that I couldn't write that up better, because Joey Porter, he played for him, he coached for him, and then his son comes over. Just makes a tons of sense for the Steelers. And Christian Gonzalez, honestly, he has great ball skills for the Commanders, and they need a number one corner like that to go along with their offense there, or their defense. I'm sorry. Detroit back on top, back on the pick here. Their first pick was Devin Witherspoon, so they did get one of their needs done. They could go wide receiver, especially since what happened just recently with Jamison Williams getting suspended for 6 games, and 2 of their other receivers suspended for a while, and no DJ Chark. This is where I could see, especially, I could see Michael Mayer go here. I could see Jordan Addison go here. I could see Cansey go here. I really do feel like Cansey could be a pick here. They could take as well. And honestly, if anything, Cansey fits their brand of football best. 100% fits their brand of football. Now, what also could happen is with Tampa next on the clock, Tampa could jump and attempt to jump and get their quarterback. I don't think they want to throw it all on Baker, but I think they may give Baker and Kyle Trask a chance for a year, especially with that offense. Leonard Fournette is going, and Rachaad White. Like, this is a younger offense that I honestly feel like it's a division that sucks, so they could get their quarterback later because Hayden Hooker is still available, and honestly, you could just wait. But Brian Branch makes the most sense, especially after they lost their safety. It does make a ton of sense. They could go Michael Mayer. They do need a tight end, but I really don't think that's too big of a need, considering they drafted Cade Otton, which is done pretty good for them. If anything, I think that they could get the best tackle left on the board, which I think it's Anton Harrison. But I'm going to give them, you know what, let's go ahead and give them a lineman, because they did lose Donovan Smith, and that makes the most sense. Sorry about that. I had to move to a more comfortable area. The Seahawks are back on the clock here. With Seattle on the clock, their first selection was getting Jalen Carter, which getting Jalen Carter was the best case scenario for them. And they have their choice with edge rusher here. Lucas Van Ness makes the most sense. But I could see Myles Murphy go here. I think, honestly, Myles Murphy is the best guy available to them, and I would not be shocked to see them jump all over getting just that selection here with Myles Murphy. Now the Chargers are on the clock. I know this is where some people said Bijan may go because Eckler has requested a trade. I know that was a thing that he did request trade, but he already stated, I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying put. If you think I'm going somewhere, you're sorely mistaken. But he's not going anywhere. He just looked because contract talks have not gone well. The Chargers here. Jordan Addison is the best player available. And the next pick, I believe, is the Ravens and the Vikings. And they may be selecting a receiver as well. I think this is the spot. If you want to go get your receiver, get it. But best cornerback, probably top 3 cornerback in Deonte Banks is on the board. They probably weren't expecting him to be here. You could select him here and not look back. And wait. Because you have Josh Palmer. You have Mike Williams. You have... I know Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. I know that. But you do have Jalen Guyton back next year. They may just wait. I think that just makes a ton of sense. They may just wait. Or they may just select like someone clear out of the blue, like a Lucas Van Ness. Or a Zay Flowers, which Zay Flowers has been jumping up boards lately. He has been jumping up boards. If anything, I think this has to be Addison if you're picking the wide receiver, though. But I think this is Deonte Banks. I just... If you can solidify your corners with J.C. Jackson and Deonte Banks, you're looking a lot better, especially in a division where you're going to be playing Russell Wilson. I know Russell Wilson isn't that great, but you're going to be playing Patrick Mahomes 2 times a year. You're going to need good corners. And that just solidifies their secondary. All right, moving on to the Ravens. This is easy. This is very easy. This is Jordan Addison all the way. The fact that he is there was a gift sent by God. And honestly, I feel like Addison would be perfect in this offense. A little guy right in the middle of the offense as well that can, let's look here. He's 5'11". He's 5'11". So he's a guy who typically he's very good at route running and he can play in the slot. So that is really what they need for this offense, especially with guys like they picked up OBJ. You have Rashad Bateman back, and they've already said that they are going to throw the football more. So this is a way to show that you're going to do it and actually show commitment to Lamar Jackson as well and signing him long term because, one, he freaking deserves it. And I feel like it's necessary. Now, with that happening, with Jordan Addison being taken off the board, the Vikings have their choice at wideout and corner. They need both. They need both. But looking at the corners, you have Emmanuel Forbes. And they do pick again. Let's see here. Oh, it actually shows who they may actually select. Interesting. This could be the corner. I strongly feel like this is the corner. Deonte Banks is already gone. So give them Forbes. I feel like Forbes could make sense. And they could wait on wide receiver because, honestly, they have more picks in the second round. And here's the receiver still available. Josh Downs they could get in the next round. They could get Jalen Hyatt. They get a guy that fits their personality more, and Quentin Johnson doesn't. And I think Zay Flowers, I think Addison would have been perfect for them. But if anything, Quentin Johnson would make sense. But I think they can't miss on a corner here. I think it has to be Forbes. So with that done, the Jags get their selection of either of these guys. They could get Nolan Smith, who is available, who is dropped a tiny bit. They have Brian Branch, who is there. I think that getting a line that is just super dominant with Josh Allen, getting Josh Allen. Okay, so imagine this line. Josh Allen, Nolan Smith, and who's the guy that picked from Georgia last year? Tavon Walker. That's automatic. Getting two Georgia boys back to just next to each other would make a ton of sense for this offense, or this defense, I apologize. Let's do a little recap before I get into more here. All right, so pick 11, we had Anthony Richardson. Pick 12, we had Jackson Smith and Jigba. Pick 13, we did have Dalton Kincaid. 14 was Paris Johnson Jr., the tackle. 15 was Broderick Jones. 16 was Christian Gonzalez. 17, of course, was Joey Porter Jr. 18 was Kalijah Cansey. 19 was Anton Harrison. 20 was Miles Murphy. 21 was Deontay Banks. 22 was Jordan Addison. 23 was Emmanuel Forbes. And 24 was Nolan Smith. Now, here we are back at pick 25. And honestly, this is Quentin Johnson's spot. Is Quentin Johnson the best receiver? No. He has one move, and that's it. That's very disappointing if you are a fan of this guy. He needs to stop. He doesn't catch with his hands. He almost brings it into his body at most. But he is like the biggest receiver in this class. And the Giants haven't had a wide receiver like that since OBJ. So you throw him in there with Wan'Dale Robinson, with Hodgins, who has been pretty good. Shepard's back. And with Darren Waller there, that makes this offense look a lot better going into a division where they're going to be playing the Cowboys for 2 games and the Eagles, who, if they make this trade for Derrick Henry, it's going to be very, very tough for them. All right, here we are, Dallas Cowboys. Now, this is a team that I was saying this could be the spot where we see Michael Mayer. Running back is indeed a need for them. They could go get the linebacker, or they could surprise us all and just pick Jahmyr Gibbs. This is a team I could see Bijan Robinson going to. I would not be shocked if Bijan is selected by Dallas. But I think Dallas sees what they have. They have Tony Pollard. But who do they have behind Pollard? Okay, so you look at your running backs here. You have Charbonnet. You could wait for the second round if you really like Charbonnet. Or you could go and pick Gibbs and get him early. But you can wait around for that. You can get your tight end of the future now. Or you could get your edge rusher to pair with DeMarcus Lawrence, who is getting up there in age, and Micah Parsons. Imagine Lucas Van Ness with Micah Parsons. That would be freaking amazing. Tell me that wouldn't be amazing. Or we could just be surprised and they pick a freaking wide receiver. I don't think they do that here. I think this is Michael Mayer. He's Dalton Schultz light. He's diet Dalton Schultz. And honestly, out of all the tight ends, this is the perfect landing spot. Because you know that Dak is going to throw it to the tight end. He threw it to Dalton Schultz several times last year in the end zone. And honestly, he could do the same here. But do I think he's going to do anything in fantasy, Mayer? No. At least for the first season. They're rookie tight ends. He's going to have to compete with Jake Ferguson and Hendershot, which I'm pretty sure they like him. But if it's not Michael Mayer, I could see Jahmyr Gibbs go. I just have this strong feeling the Cowboys are going to try and move up and go all in and go and get Bijan and keep him in Texas. It's Jerry Jones. It's Jerry Jones. This is what Jerry Jones does. He will do that move 110%. Or he may go to get another Alabama running back. He loves those SEC running backs. So, anyway, moving on to the Buffalo Bills. Bills, they do have not a lot of holes. The way their season ended last year was very sad. This could be the spot we see Jahmyr Gibbs, because they picked up Damian Harris. Devin Singletary's gone. I mean, who's your running back of choice? They may stick with James Cook. That is also an option. But I think the guy they may go for is Brian Breeze. Brian Breeze is the best interior defensive lineman available. And for them, they will jump to pick up this guy. I know that they could get an edge rusher, but they don't play edge rushers. They normally play 4-3, or, well, actually, yeah, they do play 4-3. So they want big defensive linemen in the front. And him and Oliver, I can't think of the other one, Trent Murphy. I think he's still there. Anyway, this is besides the point. Bengals. This is Brian Branch. They lost Jesse Bates to the Falcons. They need a new Jesse Bates kind of person. You get a guy in Alabama, safety, Brian Branch, who is a ball hawk safety. He is very good in coverage, and I think the Bengals need that, especially when you're in a conference where you know you're going to go deep in the playoffs and you're probably going to play Patrick Mahomes again and Josh Allen. You need a good defense and you need a good secondary, and I think the Brian Branch would be perfect to plug and play in there. The Saints are up. I think they're just going to pick the best lineman available, and that is O'Cyrus Torrence at guard. They do need several different positions for the line, and I think they just need to address that to keep their quarterback healthy, Derek Carr. They want to keep him healthy because right now he's the best quarterback in that division. If Bryce Young doesn't get drafted there. But pick 30. We have the Eagles back on the clock. Their first selection was the defensive lineman? It was Darnell Wright, the tackle. And this could be a pick. They just pick I honestly feel like this is where Jahmyr Gibbs comes off. Jahmyr Gibbs could come here, or, hear me out, you get a guy at center that you're going to need to replace. Jason Kelce said he's done after this year. He's done. So, you pick John Michael Schmidt. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. You need him. You need a new heir apparent to Jason Kelce, who is one of the upstanding guys in this league. And you need a guy who can just plug and play for you on down one. And here we are at the final pick of the first round. And the final pick of this mock. Zay Flowers could be the pick here. Josh Downs, I do feel, could be a pick here. Jahmyr Gibbs could be the pick here, especially with Pacheco. Jerick McKinnon still hasn't been picked up since the making of this video. But I'm going to give them Zay Flowers. And they need a wide receiver desperately. They've lost Juju. And you can't go into this season with Sky Moore. And I think they're going to load up on wideouts. I honestly feel like they're going to need to at least get 2. Because they lost me Cole Hardman as well. And I think at this moment in time, they really didn't pick anyone big up other than Richie James. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes, and honestly, it doesn't matter who you have at wideout, but you need some good, you need some rookies in there. I know you have Tony, you have Sky Moore. You can't go in MVS. You can't have those 3 be your starting wideouts and expect to go to a Super Bowl every year. I honestly feel like Zay Flowers can go. Now, what I would like to see is I'd like to go see Quentin Johnson go here. I'd love to see Quentin Johnson go here. Or I'd like to see Kansas City move up and go get their wide receiver. Because they need a good one. Imagine they move up and go get Jackson Smith and Jigba. Or move up and get Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison be perfect for them. A Tyreek Hill sort of player that has his kind of speed almost. And his height. But yeah, this was the mock draft. Let me know what you guys think. Comments down below. Who is your favorite pick of mine? Who is the worst pick of mine? Let me know. And I will see you all in the next one. And as always, stay awesome, my Dark Knights.